I do appreciate everybody coming out on this cold night, and we'll get out here in about an hour, and you'll get home after it starts to freeze and be time to get warm and all that kind of stuff. I'm very, very. Those of you who are on Facebook know I'm extremely excited about tonight. I'm excited about as I prepared, how God just dealt with me, gave me words. Things were just coming to me that I just had no idea, and it's really made me very, very excited about what's going on, and I'm excited about sharing with you tonight. So, first of all, let me open with prayer. Father, I pray that you just take tonight, dear Lord, during this time that we have together, and you know what we're here to do, dear Lord, and I pray that our ears, our minds, our spirits will be open to you. I pray that my words will be your words tonight, dear Lord, that you just speak through me to things that need to be said for all of us to hear, including myself. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen. This is 6 weeks every Wednesday night. We're going to get together, and when Will talked to me about it, I decided that we'll call this the Circle of Life, and here's why. It's because we're going to mainly cover 3 subjects. We're going to talk about our relationships, and when I say relationships, we're going to talk about our relationships with God, our relationships with our mates, or those that are close to us, our family, extended family, friends, the whole 9 yards. We're going to try to cover all of those pieces. We're going to talk about money and finances and what God says about that, and deal with a lot of the fundamental pieces about handling money and how to look at money. And the last piece is our health, and we're going to look at that. I got a text message this afternoon from my buddy David Gamble over there, and he knew what it was all about, and he told me that he was bringing his Bible, his financial statement, and his tennis shoes. and then he wanted to know if we were going to dress out tonight, so we're not going to do that. But you know David Gamble, okay? Thank you, David. So those are the 3 subjects that we're going to hit on. As I started putting this thing together, I was trying to decide how to do it during the 6 weeks, and I was thinking that I would take 2 weeks on each one, but the more I tried to put all that together, it just didn't flow. It didn't work right. So I'm going to just intermingle all of these each Wednesday night. So there won't be a Wednesday night that's just dedicated to finances, or a Wednesday night that's just dedicated to health or relationships. But some Wednesday nights we may spend a little bit more time on one subject than the other. But I'm just going to let it mix up, because I see how they're all connected, okay, and how they flow with one another. And the way we're going to approach it is I want to consider this coaching. And so I want to give you a little bit of my coaching philosophy, okay? My life changed about a year and a half ago when I first started being introduced to this new way of thinking. And new way of thinking, you know what I'm talking about, of just raising another level of a positive outlook on things. I started meeting with Dr. Ralph, and my life just completely changed. And not to say that my life was terribly bad before, but it just went to another level, because my eyes were opened up to so many things that I just not really paid any attention to and noticed them. And so that's kind of what I want to do, is I want to coach all of us into taking that to another level. Now, Dr. Ralph Martin has taught, and Buren preaches, the positive perspective, in everything that we do. So it's all going to be a little bit of the same, but I'm going to give you my mix, the way God's given it to me on this whole idea of thinking positively. And so my coaching philosophy is this, and where I was going to go with that is, when I first started going to Ralph, I'm going to tell you, I first of all, let me back up. I was extremely passionate about coaching baseball, little kids, when my kids were coming up. So passionate and excited about it. I really thought about it a lot today, because today I felt like this was the opening day, the game, okay, the game's coming up. But I was extremely passionate when I coached baseball, and I was passionate, and I had certain ideas about how to coach kids. I know, Randy, I read a post that you had about your basketball team. Man, I love what you say and how you approach all that. But when I started coaching kids, I started deciding how I was going to do that and to teach them how to play baseball, but I knew that it was something a little bit bigger than that. I needed to also teach them about life, because in just about every sport that there is, it's a parallel to life. So when I first started going to Ralph, all this stuff started flooding back to me, because as Ralph would talk, I would remember back at lessons that I was showing the kids when I was coaching baseball. So what it meant to me was that God was preparing me for today back then, of course, and I had no idea about it. But as I went and started learning all this with Ralph, everything started coming to me. And I realized that the same philosophy that I had in coaching those little kids is the same philosophy with coaching people and grasping this idea of having a positive attitude. So my coaching philosophy, one of the key ingredients is this. I tried to never point out to the kids what they were doing wrong. I tried to tell them what they needed to do it right, how to do it right. And so without even having any concept of this positive and negative thing like I have today, I already had it in the sense that my whole philosophy was that I wanted to reinforce in them a positive aspect, a positive way. From the standpoint when we took batting practice, little kids, I would, most of you have probably been around it, even if you don't have little boys, you may know, but most of the time you take batting practice and everybody gets to hit 10 balls before practice is over. That's it. And what I would always do is when I had a kid that was hitting and he was getting close to his 10th hit, if he didn't hit it good, I let him hit another one. I always made sure that he finished on a really good hit. I didn't want him to finish on a little dribbler to third base. I wanted him to hit the ball so that would be his last thought for the whole batting practice piece. And that's where that came from. So that's kind of a little bit of what my coaching philosophy is to, I want to try to coach us into things that we need to do. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on what you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. I may mention a couple things here and there, but for the most part, that's what I want to try to focus on. I want to encourage you to ask questions and to share. Tonight, I'm going to talk a good bit, and you'll know what I'm talking about a little bit later on or where I'm going with this. But after tonight, I'm going to give you some homework. David and Dr. Ken were worried about tests tonight. I'm going to give you some homework, but I want you to do some things next week. And then next Wednesday night, I want some of you to share with us your experience with that, okay? I'm going to give you some specifics that I want you to focus on. But I want to make sure you ask questions. Now, from where I'm standing right now, I'm just going to tell you, it's very blurry out there and bright. So if you have a question, raise your hand, and if I don't see you, whistle, stand up, do whatever, but feel free to stop me and ask the question if you need to, okay? We're good with that? Okay. All right. So my goal for this 6 weeks is for us to go to a different level. And what I want you to do is to get excited about your life. When Bjorn said I didn't need an introduction, and I don't, but I was thinking about it earlier today, positive energy and what that means. And I thought about trying to call Barbara and see if she could find a clip to play the theme when Elvis used to come on the stage, Because here's an idea how positive energy is. Have you ever been to a concert? When the person that's the marquee is going to come out and play, the person on the marquee is going to come out and play, the energy that you feel when the stage, Garth Brooks, when the stage, when the stage is empty and there's maybe a little music playing and things are happening, but you can feel the energy, can't you? It's not just something that's made up, and it's not unique just to you. It can be felt. So what I want us to do is try to tap into that so that we feel that type of energy every day of our life. Every day of our life. And it can be done. And I hope that during these 6 weeks we'll cover some things to help you to understand how to make that happen. All right. One of the things that I used to tell my kids when I coached them ball is this. In our first practices, we would get together and we would talk about how what I'm going to do, my coaching philosophy for baseball is going to be, I'm going to teach you how to throw, how to hit, how to catch, how to run, and what takes place in all of that. I'm going to try to cover everything. And man, I used to plan my practices out. I'm telling you, I would have on a sheet of paper, I knew what we were going to do at 5:10 and at 5:20, and it went like clockwork most of the time, didn't it, Brandon? It went like clockwork. Not really, but it was pretty close. What I would always tell my parents is this, that I want your child to get excited about baseball. I want him to love baseball. But the only way he's going to love baseball is if you do it with him after he leaves practice. Okay? So my point in that is this. We can come to church on Sundays. We can come to church on Wednesdays. We can go see Dr. Ralph once a week. And everything that these guys teach you or tell us is good for that moment. But if we don't take it and go out and practice it, then we're really wasting everybody's time. We're really wasting everybody's time. So it's important. What I would tell my parents is that I need for you to throw pitch with your kid when he's not with me. I need you to take him to the batting cage when he's not with me. I need you to turn on the Braves and let him watch a baseball game when he's not with me. I wanted them to get it. But the only way they would get it would be if you did it outside of the practice area. The practice area is where we make certain points and we may make discoveries about things. And then when you go outside of the practice area, you put application to it and you start making it happen. So that's my goal for this 6 weeks, is that we'll be able to develop that and that you understand that the way to grab hold of this and to do something with it is up to you, and you have to do it other than Wednesday night, okay? One of the other things that I used to always tell them is repetition, repetition, repetition. That's the only way you get it. It's the only way you get it. I could take a kid and teach them how to catch a ground ball, and I might throw them 3 or 4, and that's why I would tell them that in practice, they're not going to get that many balls. I need you to go home with them and let them catch 25 and 30 or 100. When we would go home, my arm would almost fall off. Didn't we, Brandon? We would go home, and I would get a bucket of balls, and I would just toss him balls and toss him balls and toss him balls. And I would take him and I would try to teach him how to backhand a ball, which is a hard thing to do in baseball. But I would take a bucket of balls and I would just throw to him, and he would just pick them up, throw them down, pick them up, throw them down. And the repetition of it got to where when a ball came to him in a ball game, it was just automatic because he did it so many times that he already knew what to do. You were good, weren't you, Brandon? But it was good coaching, right? It was good coaching, right? Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories tonight, and so both of them you've probably already heard, but I may tell it just a little bit different way. I love to tell stories. I love to tell stories. And I was gonna have a handout for you tonight, but I didn't get that piece done. I do have it here, and I'm going to make some copies for you next week. But how many of you have ever heard the story of compound interest with a penny, and where the man gives his 2 sons the choice? Everybody heard that, or is it new? It's been a long time. Okay. There was an elderly man that was about to die, and he was elderly, and he was also very wealthy. He had a lot of money. Taught his kids a lot of stuff over the years, things that he did, but he got to the end of his life, and he knew that he was going to die very shortly. It was coming up. But he wanted to teach his 2 sons another lesson in life before he died. So he brought his 2 sons in. He told them what was going to happen with, his estate, and he was extremely wealthy. But he told his 2 sons, he said, I'm going to give you a choice today. You don't have to decide today. I want you to think about it. You're going to come back tomorrow and tell me what your answer is, okay? But here's the choice. I will give you, and he slid the money over to them in the middle of the table, $1,000 bills, $1 million. He said, here's the choice that you have. Tomorrow you make your mind up. You can either leave with this $1 million and go, and that's yours to do whatever you want to with, or I'll give you a penny, and the penny will be doubled every day for 30 days. Okay? Now, most of us, we hear that. I already know the end of the story, but when I first heard it, I thought, that's kind of crazy, Why would you do that? I'm going to shoot to the end, though, but the 2 boys went, and they came back, and one of them, as you might guess, chose the $1 million. He thought it through. He decided that he wanted to have the $1 million in his hand. There's no whatever. He couldn't figure out about the penny thing. That just sounded crazy to him. But the other son really thought about it and did a little research on his own, thinking the whole thing through of how it works. And he chose the penny. Now, the one brother that took the $1 million thought that the brother that took the penny was kind of loony in the head, all right? He didn't understand. But the son that took the $1 million went out and he hired him this team of financial advisors. He got ready to invest his money. He got ready to try to build himself an empire with different investments and things like that. While the other brother took the penny and went on his way. All right. Of course, you know that on day one, how much does he have? Just making sure you're paying attention, okay? All right. On day 7, he had 64 cents. The other brother still had $1 million. Except for he's had to pay a few dollars out for the people that's helping him make more money. On day 14, the brother that took the penny has $81.92. We're almost halfway through the month. It's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good for the guy that took the penny. The guy that's got the $1 million is still out here and he's still trying to make investments, paying these people to manage his money. However, on day 20, the guy who took the penny, and go home and just write down 1 through 30 and double it every time. On day 20, the guy who took the penny has $5,242.88. But still, we've only got 10 days to go. And he's got just a little bit over $5,000. The other guy's got $1 million. Continue on day 26, the guy that took the penny has $335,544.32 by doubling it every day. Now the guy that took the $1 million is starting to scratch his head a little bit. He's looking around and some of his investments are not going the way that he thought they were going. And all of a sudden, he doesn't have the $1 million anymore. It's being put in different places. Other people are having to take pieces of it. And I'll go ahead on the 30th day, the man that took the penny has $5,368,709.12. The guy that took the $1 million has less than $1 million. And the key here was it's a matter of choice. I want you to, I will copy this down, but I want you to be able to see compound interest, because what's going to happen is I'm going to use this example for the 6 weeks that we're together from different times. Because what I want this to represent is that you have the ability to double what you have on a daily basis, okay? You have the ability to increase everything about you. All right, now I'm not telling you that in 6 weeks, well, in 30 days, you're going to have $5 million by coming here. That's not it. But what we're going to discover is there's so much that is a part of you that if you look at it this way, it adds up. See, that's the whole key right here is where you want to be going is you want to be changing and you want to be continually adding to yourself. Okay? That's where you're going to go. So I want you to keep in mind, everybody understands what compound interest is now, right? I did make this note. I'm not aware of any bank or financial institution that will do compound interest today. However, if anybody hears of one, my number is, I want to know about it. All right. So I want you to remember that because we're going to come back to that over and over during the 6 weeks. Now, part of the process here is, and there are a lot of Eagles Way folks here, and there's a lot of people that aren't. We got some folks that I work with that came tonight who have already been exposed to what we're going to continually be exposed to of this positive thinking. Some of you have already grabbed a hold to it, and your mode of thinking has changed. But there are some here who've not made it real in your life yet completely. You might have got a piece of it. You might still be skeptical about some things. You might just not see it happening the way it's being presented. No matter where you are, what we're going to do is we're going to change. We're going to change no matter what level you're at, okay? My good friend who shared with me, Dr. Ralph Martin, if you come for 6 weeks, your level's going to change. Okay? See, I learned that from you. But no matter where you are, your level's going to change if you want it to. See, that's the key, if you want it to. There's a lot of things in life that we say that we want, but we don't really mean it. We might just use the words. the key is, do you really want to? And you have to examine that. Now, also what I'm going to do for these 6 weeks is my lovely bride, Kitty, is going to share some each week. And I've asked her to come share with us for just a few minutes on, you take as much time as you want, honey. She's going to come share with us some ideas about how you go about making change in your life. Okay? Kitty Grubbs. Round of applause. Screaming. He's got. You do.
Can I talk real loud?
No, you got to use this. Sorry. Char's there.
Buren was scared. We just appreciate everybody coming out to support Joey tonight, and those of you who know me know where I'm comfortable and where I'm not comfortable, but my husband asked me to do this, so Ralph Martin, I said, I am confident, I can do it, and I can talk in front of people. And so I'm honoring him tonight, and I know that God will honor that, just like what Joey was saying a minute ago. But I use my hands too, so this microphone is a little restrictive. At the beginning of the year, we expect a message on New Year's resolutions, right? Or we have in the past. But I think that we're looking at things differently now. And I had read this article. Joey and I both read all the time, and I'm sure he's going to share a reading list. We get ideas from all of you guys and friends on Facebook, but we just read all the time. And I had read this article, and I was really excited about some of the ideas that were in the article. And they just kind of reinforce, but maybe say in a different way, the things that we've been studying and learning over the last couple of years. And rather than thinking about a whole New Year's resolution, this article was just talking about changing habits that are not productive. Or if you want to call changing a bad habit, but I like not productive. It's habits that are not productive. So 3 points that I don't know exactly how I'm going to fit in with what Joey speaks on Wednesday nights, but the 3 points would be understanding what a habit is, if you like to take notes. I like to take notes. Prepare yourself for the challenge of changing a habit, and learn techniques to override counterproductive ones. Okay, so my first question to you is, what is a habit? Anybody? What's a habit? Something you do constantly. Ken, what did you say? Exactly. Anybody else? When you think of a habit, what do you think of? Anybody else? Well, this is just a definition that I found that I really liked. It says it's a learned pattern of behavior that gets deeply ingrained through repetition and reward. And a lot of us are reading Dr. Carolyn Leaf's new book, Switch On Your Brain, and have been discussing it. And in that book, if you get the book, she talks about different layers of consciousness and unconsciousness in our brain. And it's just intriguing, and I'm not even going to begin to do that. But this definition, I think, really fits in a lot of what she says. And it's in this article that I had read, it said most habits in our lives are productive habits. We don't even think anything about it, like we just go to flip a light switch on because we know the light's going to come on. Or we just go to tie our tennis shoes, and we don't have to think about it. But if you've taught a child recently, or teachers that have little kids in the classroom maybe that haven't learned to tie their shoes, if you think about the steps, and when you sit there and you're teaching them every step of tying the shoe, think about how you have to show them and you have to tell them, and it's long and drawn out, but once you've learned that, then you just do it. Okay, so that's what we want to learn to apply toward counterproductive habits. I wanted to do a little example, but I can't do it with this mic. Yeah, and I want to talk loud. Okay, I'm a piano teacher. Everybody hold your hands up. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take our hands together and clasp them. So take your hands together and clasp. Okay, how many of you have your left thumb on the top? Okay, how many of you have your right thumb on the top? Okay, so we're about half and half. Okay, take your hands down. Okay, hands back up. I want you to switch it. Come down, switch thumbs. Okay, again, hands up. Go back to your original thumb. Okay, hands down. So if you wanted to change that, if you wanted to go from what is natural, which for me was left on top, I had to really think about it. But if I did it over and over and over, then it would start to feel natural, okay? All right. How do you tolerate discomfort? That's a question to think about. How do you tolerate discomfort? All right, so very quickly, just a couple other things from the article. The more you exercise self-control, the less mental effort it will take. Probably everybody in here has lifted weights at some point, and you understand the concept, right? You build muscle, you tear it down. You build it more, you tear it down. And the same thing is with self-control. The more you exercise it, the less effort it will take. And so one of the things that we want to think about, and we all have been thinking about that have been in the classes over the last year with Pastor Buren, with Ralph, with Ken, with Dusty, everybody, is about retraining or reframing the way that you look at something, okay? And when you're looking at a habit that you have decided, or somebody's pointed out, or God's shown you that's counterproductive in your life, the first thing you want to do is look at it differently, okay? Because you're going to retrain yourself. Another point that was made in this article that I really liked was about reducing stress. Because a lot of times we know that there are stress triggers for us, and it could be different for everybody. And so you want to pace yourself, you want to rest, because we all know if we get really, really tired, it makes it hard to exercise self-control. And a point that Pastor Buren made, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before last, was about as God launches us into 2015, sometimes that means that we may have to leave people behind in our lives that, that are very negative and do not provide us the support that we need. I was talking with a friend the other day who is also reading, or has actually finished Dr. Carolyn's book, and she was talking about some things in her life that she was speaking forth, and she was speaking from her mind to her brain, things to change in her life. And we talked about how important it is that she surround herself with people that believe like she believes and that support her in these changes and don't say, you always did it this way. It's super, super important. And so I got one last little thing to say. And this is my Dr. Ralph Gold Nugget. Okay, so if you're ready. And I'm just going to read it straight from the article because I thought it was really good. It says, using a budget analogy, assume you wake up every day with $1 worth of energy. Don't squander that energy on petty worries or decisions. In order to have enough energy to resist urges and temptations. And just remember, what we're talking about is counterproductive habits, and that's what we'll be talking more about.
I just love her. Okay. Most of us have already heard this, but again, some of us have not. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a quick rundown about where we are with positive and negative energy, okay? The one thing that I really like the way Ralph always taught this is there are only two kinds, positive and negative. There's nothing in between, all right? And you get to choose one or the other. When the light came on for me, I'll share this with you, is Ralph preached a sermon here, and he preached on Joshua and the Battle of Jericho, and I've shared this with him. Because I'd heard some other talks that he had before. The light didn't come on quite the way it did that day, that Sunday morning. And I want to tell you the story of Joshua, the Battle of Jericho, the way I hear it and the way it spoke to me, okay? So it's in Joshua 6, 1 through 20, and I'm not gonna read it, but I will urge you to go and look at that and read it again. But here's the story, Joey's version, and it's with the Bible, okay? All right. So the children of Israel, they were to take over Jericho. They were there. God had delivered them to go in and take the city. All right. Now he sent them there. When they got there, their leader Joshua, he didn't come to them and tell them, "All right, here's the battle plan, and this is going to be good." Okay, we've got all these spears and arrows and all this other stuff. What he said was, "This is what God told me for us to do. We're going to walk around the city for 7 days, each day. And he said, and this was a big city, all right? But we're going to walk around the city as a group for 7 days, and we're going to circle this city. The instructions that he gave them was this. He said, I want you to be quiet. Now, here's where I want to ask you a question. What happens when you're quiet? Okay. You start thinking, all right? Can you stop thinking? Anybody? I hope not. If you can, you're not here. No, you can't. No, you can't, Vera. You can't actually stop thinking. But when Joshua told them to be quiet, the whole idea for them was to concentrate on what was about to be delivered to them. Not only what was to be delivered, but what had already been done for them. Okay? So what Joshua had asked the children of Israel to do sounded kind of crazy, that we're going to take this city this way, but we're going to march around this city every day for 7 days. We're going to go around at one time. And we're going to march around at one time, and here's the key. You've been in crowds. Nobody say a word. And we're going to do a little test a little bit later on here, okay? But think about this for a minute. This was not 25 people, okay? This was not 100 people. This was a lot of people. He said, be quiet as we walk around this city. No noise from them, okay? Now, I want you to just imagine yourself to be a part of that. So the first time you walk around that city, being quiet, thinking about the goodness of God. And the way Ralph described it, and I like the way he describes it, because he says, you know, when we're quiet and we think about it, there's an energy that starts to vibrate within us. And I'm going to get a little deeper into that in just a minute. But that's what they did. For 6 days, they would every day meet and do their thing and walk around the city without saying a word. Total silence. To think about what God has done for them and what he is about to do for them. So I want you to think for a minute, just imagine the energy that was being produced by each person each day as they got closer, because he already told them we're going to do it for 7 days. What's going to happen on the 7th day? Now, his instructions were that on the 7th day that they would blow the horns, and at that time they would release the energy that was inside that they've been holding all that time walking around. Now, the reason the light came on for me about this is because I immediately thought of when I've experienced something similar. Don't get me wrong, I haven't taken the city of Jericho, but something similar in this aspect. I mentioned to you a while ago about when a performer comes out on stage, how the crowd, there's an energy that takes place before they come out. I'll tell you, and Dr. Ken's going to like this, but when I heard that story, what immediately came to me was that in 1980, I was fortunate enough to where somebody handed me 2 tickets to the University of Georgia football game, and they were playing South Carolina. My brother Doug and I went to Athens. We jumped in the car and took off. Got over there and went inside the stadium, and we were sitting on it was really good seats. I don't remember who gave me the tickets now, but they were good seats. But it was on about the 35 or the 40-yard line. It was about, 30 rows up. It was great seats. Herschel Walker, the greatest running back to ever play, except for Gurley now, Brandon, is that what you said? Herschel Walker is a great running back at the University of Georgia. George Rogers was a great running back for the University of South Carolina. He won the Heisman Trophy that year, as a matter of fact. But that game was so special because these two guys, their teams, they're colliding. All right? Now, in that game, if you've ever been to I hope you've been to a University of Georgia football game, because there is an energy there that's incredible. Now, I realize some other places have energy, but we'll go on. But anyway, I told Dr. Ralph this story that when he was telling this story about Joshua and the Battle of Jericho, that in that game in 1980, they gave the ball to Herschel Walker, and I don't remember what the score was. I do know Georgia won that day, but I don't remember at the time. But anyway, they tossed the ball to Herschel, and he went around the side, and he was coming down the sideline that we were on, and he was running. And there were players that had the angle on him, but Herschel was a great running back. And as Herschel was coming down, you can just imagine the crowd and the excitement that was taking place. Okay? This is Georgia and South Carolina. Leslie, I'm sorry. And it was Herschel Walker against George Rogers. And as Herschel came down that sideline And everybody's in their seats, starts standing up. I don't know why everybody was sitting down, but starts standing up. And as Herschel came by, I could actually feel the energy hit me as he was going down the field, because behind him was the people that could see what we couldn't see down on that end. I think it was like 85 yards that he ran on that run. But the energy of the people who could already see it, where we were, we couldn't see exactly what was happening, but we could see him coming down the line. But as he got to me, I'm telling you, I felt it. I felt the energy of that crowd yelling and screaming. And I shared with Ralph, I said, now Herschel Walker was a great running back, but I will guarantee you that day he ran the fastest he's ever run at that particular time. He probably did it again later. But see, the crowd and the energy propelled him to even be, but because I actually felt it, this story of Joshua and the Battle of Jericho really came to life in me. Because, see, all my life I'd heard that story. I've been to Sunday school since I was a little bitty kid. And all the time I've heard that story, in my mind, it had always been that they were obedient to God, which they were, and they went around 7 times, and because of their obedience, the walls came down. And that's a piece of it, but that's not all of it. See, that's the piece. The piece that I had missed all along was that when the horns blew and that they released the energy that had been inside of them for each time they walked around that city was so massive that, like, the power that I felt at the University of Georgia was so strong that it took the walls of this city down. I'm telling you, it does something to me just to think about it. It does. It does. Now, that's when the light came on for me that there was something real about this. There's something real about this. I've always been a positive type of person. I've always tried to look at things in a positive manner. I thought. I had, but not the way I have in the last year and a half, because I've learned from this right here. Because I realized that I had missed out on something. I had missed out tapping into something that was real. It's actually real. If you've never been to a University of Georgia game, surely you've been to a Braves game, okay? And if you've been to a Braves game, you know, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to a World Series game one time. Man, when you walk into the stadium, I'm telling you, there's a vibration, and you can feel it inside your body. There's a shaking going on because everybody in there expects them to win. So that's the key. That's where that energy is coming from. They don't come thinking they're going to lose. That's not why they're there. They're there expecting them to win. And you know why a lot of ball players are able to perform at levels is because, like I was telling you about Herschel, it's transferred to them in so many ways. Okay? So many ways. Now I said that I'm going to stay positive, but here's what we got to know. The negative works in the same way. Works in the exact same way. Completely. Okay? If you've ever been to a ball field where, and I'm sorry about using sports as an analogy, but that's just who I am. But if you've ever been to a ball field and you saw a player who struggles and continues to struggle, and you hear fans boo at them, you hear somebody get on them, you know, they're making millions of dollars and they can't hit a baseball, you know, all of that kind of thing. See, that energy level works the exact same way. Now, and I've been a part of that, okay? But I realize now that, man, I contributed to his failure. I contributed to his failure. Because I instead of giving him positive energy and believing in him, I was already saying, the guy's a bum. He can't do it. He's over. I contributed to that. So that's the hard part for us to understand is that the realness of this is it's available, and they're both available. You decide which one to latch on to, okay? Now, what we're going to do in these 6 weeks is we're going to talk about relationships, we're going to talk about money, and we're going to talk about health. And this is all intertwined with this same type of energy of what we do, all right? How you think changes everything. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Now, that verse is not talking about your physical heart, okay? That verse is to guard your thoughts. That's what that is, okay? See, for so long, if you'd have asked me about this 15 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I agree. But see, that was before I understood and heard the story of the Joshua and Jericho row. It was before I heard it. See, this verse here means something different to me today. It means something totally different. Because I could read it before and I could say, okay, so, I'll guard my heart. It's the wellspring of life. Got it. Okay. But now that I know what I know, man, this thing goes up here now. Okay? Because now I really understand that my heart and my thoughts are the wellspring of life. Okay? And so every day of my life, when I get up in the morning and everything that I do, I make a decision of how I'm going to think. Period. Now, I'm like all of you. We all grew up in different areas, different families, different cultures, all over. And a lot of stuff, we just learned that that's the way it's supposed to be done. Okay? What Kitty was talking about of habits and stuff, how many of you do things today because your mom and dad did them that way? Whatever it is. And I'm not telling you not to do what your mom and dad did, okay? I'm trying to make a point here that we have to have self-evaluation of ourselves to decide, why do we do what we do? Of all kinds of different things. See, it's easy just to go through life and just do it the way we've been doing it. And just rock on. Just let it happen the way it was going, Before Ralph, everything was fine. Everything was fine, right? No, it wasn't. But I didn't know it. So I've learned something different. But that verse, excuse me, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Here's the first fundamental piece that I want to give you in changing your thinking. Get your pens ready. Allow your spirit of gratefulness and giving to be developed within you. I'm just going to tell you, it's that simple. It's that simple. When Ralph and I first started meeting, and he would share stuff with me, I don't know how many times I would tell him, I'd say, Ralph, this is so profound, but yet so simple. It's just so simple. But when you think about the simplicity of doing it, the profound part is what it'll change. What it will change. So this piece is here. The fundamental piece is allow your spirit, which you have, of gratefulness, and your spirit of giving, which you have, to be developed within you. Now, you may already be somebody that's grateful. You may already be somebody that gives. But I'm here to tell you that you can do more, whatever it is. All right? If I asked you this morning, or tonight, sorry, Bjorn, I'm not taking over on Sunday morning, this morning. If I asked you tonight to tell me what you're grateful for, or let's just say I asked you to write it down. Write down what you're grateful for. What kind of list would you have? What kind of list would you have? Think about it for just a second. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is important. In here, the main reason is this. There's only two energies in the world, right, Ralph? Positive and negative. If you have a grateful and a giving spirit, it's impossible to be negative. Impossible. Can't be done. See, those are the laws of God. He created all of that. So if you have a spirit of gratefulness and giving, then you cannot be negative. It won't work, okay? But that's the first fundamental piece that I want you to understand and to get, is that you have to develop that. And I'm going to give you some homework on how to start trying to make sure you develop that within yourself. Because again, if I said, are you grateful? Everybody in here would say you're grateful, right? And I'm sure you are. But what we're going to learn is, like I said earlier on, we're going to learn to go to a different level and understand how much we're grateful for, to really identify it. And here's the key, because I use this on my Facebook stuff a lot too, and be honest with yourself. Honesty is the best policy. See, it's easy for us to say we're grateful, but then we can say we're grateful and we can complain because it's going to be 15 degrees tonight. You know? That's how it works, you know? Do you like 15 degrees? No. Okay, I don't. But guess what? It's going to be 15 degrees. Okay? We got scarves and coats and sweaters, somebody said, and gloves and everything else, and all is well. But see how that works? So often we can say that we're grateful, but then immediately we take our minds to start figuring out what's not right. What's not right? And if we're not careful, then that's where we go. And we leave gratefulness and giving back over here. And we're over here looking around, everything's not right. Not right. So it's important that we start to develop that one fundamental piece. If you can start to develop that one fundamental piece, and I do realize there's two things to it, two parts to it. But if you can start it, it will change your world. Change everything about you. Everything about you. You will continually grow. And when I said repetition, I'll say some of the same stuff every Wednesday night. Okay? Because that's what it is. It's repetition. You keep reminding yourself what you're grateful for. When you find yourself wandering off of what's not right, you bring it back in line and say, what am I grateful for? And then it changes everything, every part of your world. Now, what I want to do real quick, though, is I'm gonna give you some ideas of what we're going to be talking about in the next 6 weeks. 5 weeks, because this one's almost over. But anyway. I want you to think about how you currently think about your relationships. And you got them. Kitty said we read a lot of books. I can't remember which book it was. I think it was a book, Simplify, that we finished not too long ago. And I thought it was interesting in there because with the relationships, there was a chapter in there, and I'll give you the quick version here. And it said, we spend a lot of our time trying to get all the friends that we can get, okay? We got to have a lot of friends. You ever look on Facebook, see how many friends you got? Got to add more, got to have some more. Those kind of things. He said, we go out and we try to gain friends, but he said, here's the bottom line. When you die, the average people that will come to visitation is about 200. Keith, you probably, maybe less than 200, depending. And then it said, the average funeral is 100 people or less, average. And then he said, probably 40 or less are going to go with you to the grave, go to the graveside. The rest of them got someplace else to go. And his point was how we spend all this time doing what we think we need to be doing to make us feel better, but when you're gone, they're going to do something else. And his whole point was that it's not that big a deal. And he made a really good point that we'll get into relationships about how you need to have one or two really close people that you can depend on, that'll tell you the truth, that'll look you in the eye, that'll be honest with you, that'll love you in spite of, all those things. And you need other friends, and he categorizes it like, how you have casual friends, and you have some that are a little bit closer than casual friends, but you get the point, okay? But we're going to talk about relationships. And the first thing about relationships, and this is for you, I want you to describe to yourself your relationship to God. Not to anybody else, but describe to yourself what is your relationship to God. Okay? That's kind of strong, isn't it? I mean, most of it could say he's my father, those kind of things. He's our creator. But I want you to really dig down a little bit. Let your thoughts go and describe your relationship to God. I didn't say describe who God is. I said, what's your relationship with him? Okay? Is it casual? Is it a Santa Claus relationship? Is it can I serve you relationship? Whatever it may be. But you have to answer that. Okay? Those are kind of some of the things we're going to talk about. Because, see, those are the foundations for other relationships. Okay? How do you view God? Do you have negative thoughts, such as he doesn't care? Or do you believe he provides? And he provides everything. And do you really believe that? Is he distant or close by? I learned when I went through the counseling ministry something that really changed me also. See, I grew up thinking that God was like my earthly father. And when I say that, I say it in this way. My earthly father was a rough, first sergeant, career Army man. So you can understand there was not a lot of patting on the head and, lovey-dovey, okay? And I grew up my whole life thinking that that's how God was, because that's how I saw it, my dad. I thought that he was stern. I thought that God, I knew my dad loved me, but I didn't see the way that so I thought God was that way, that he loved me, but he was distant, he was stern, he would point his finger, and he would be disappointed if I didn't do things right. Man, that's how I viewed God for most of my life, till I went through Elijah House here. And we had a class in Elijah House that, again, that light came on for me that said, that's not who God is at all. Not even close. I was 40 years old. Okay? Now, and I love God. I reverence God. I would praise God. I would do those things. But my God changed that day. He changed that day. It was amazing. So who is God to you? How do you see him? How do you view him? What is your relationship? All right, the second most important relationship, and I want you to listen to me closely here, because this is so close to this first one of God that I don't even think you can measure it. But this is the second most important relationship you have, and that's your relationship with you. That's your relationship with you. Most of us grow up our whole lives, and unless you had gone into some sort of deep counseling or things like that, you don't really give that a whole lot of thought, do you? You really don't. What is your relationship with you? Who are you? How do you talk to you? How do you talk to you? How do you see you when you look in the mirror in the morning? How about in the afternoon, or at least after you've combed your hair? How do you see yourself when you look in the mirror? When you're walking into a store and you walk by a mirror and you see that reflection in there, who is that? What is your relationship with you? The reason I said, and I understand God comes first, but the reason I said that is because the relationship that you have with you directly reflects the relationship you have with God. Completely. Okay? So you can't dismiss it. You can't just say, I'm going to have a good relationship with God. He's my Father. Yeah, all those things. And no. You got to know what your relationship with you is. What is it? We're going to get into that. See, that's going to get into a lot of things about how you treat your mate. It's going to get into a lot of things about how you treat your children, how you treat your parents, and so forth and so on, and other people around you. Because it's all directly reflected and related to your relationship with you, which goes back to God, but it's right here, okay? All your life, people have said things to you, spoke things into your life, all of those things. And a lot of it may not even be true, but it all affects how you have a relationship with you. So that's a key point there. What I will tell you is that when you learn to develop the relationship you have with you, it will enhance your relationship you have with God in a huge way. It will open up your world to things that you never knew existed, that are right there in front of you. So it's important that we learn that, and we're going to talk about that in the coming weeks. Your relationship with you is, I had a conversation with somebody this week, and I shared with them that the people that I've started with my life coaching, when I first meet with them, I ask them what their limitations are, and I let them tell me. And then my next question is, as Ralph, who told you that? Who put those limitations in your life? Did you do it, or did somebody else do it? It's directly related back to your relationship with you. All right? And we'll go on and on. Family and friends. I'll get into more of that later. I'm going to try to jump through here to get finished with my piece that I had tonight. The next area is in our finances, okay? I want you to think about how you currently think about your finances, your money. What are your thoughts about money? What does money mean to you? How much do you need? Now, if I asked you this question, if I said, I want you to write down how much money you need, just think in your head, what's the figure you would need? You don't have to write it down, but think. Here's the real question. How much money do you need? Think about it. Because, see, my next question is going to be, how'd you come up with that figure? Isn't it easy for us to just throw something out there? And we think that's it? But we didn't give it a whole lot of thought. I'll take a look. Let's just say that I'm the wealthiest person in the whole wide world. And I said, whatever you tell me, I'm going to give you. What do you need? What would you come up with? Gamble? Isn't it funny how, he's funny, he's a funny man, but isn't it funny how a lot of us, we really don't even know what we think about money. It's a number, but that's about it. And you may have an idea of what you need, and that would probably be predicated on of what do I have coming up that I need, okay? But we're going to get into a lot of stuff about finances and how you view money. How do you think about money right now? Are you always short of money? Do you have enough money? Do you have an abundance? How do you feel about credit? I'm going to share some stuff with you about credit that you're probably not going to like, okay? Because I just recently read a book that had something in it that, man, it made me shudder a little bit. And I'm going to share it with you because I think he's right. I think he's right 100%. But here's the thing. Refer back to the story of compound interest with a penny. How much is a penny worth to you? Because it's money. I've had a couple of clients that I've worked with that they've met with me to coach about money. And that's one of the first things I do with them. I ask them, when you're walking down the street and you see a coin on the ground, what denomination does it have to be before you pick it up? Think about that for a second. Now, most of you that already know me, I pick up a penny and I'll fight you for it. Okay? I get excited when I find a piece of money on the ground. I do. Kitty and I went somewhere in the last couple of days. I found 2 dimes in 2 different parking lots. Man, whoo! It was all good. What do you think, what denomination of money would it take for you to bend down and pick it up? See, and what you'll find is that's going to be, that gives you an idea of how you look at money. It is, knowing where it is. What's valuable to you? And then the last one that we're going to deal with, off and on, is about our health. It's good stuff. But think about how you currently think about your health. You think about it. What are your thoughts about your health? What do you see when you look in the mirror? And I'm not here to make anybody feel bad, and I'm not here to make anybody feel good, Brandon. I know how you... Yeah, I know it. He's my son. I can do that. What do you think about when you see yourself in the mirror? What do you think about? See, the question is, do you really want to get healthier? That's the question. That goes back to some of that other stuff. We all say that from time to time. I need to get healthier. I need to eat healthier. I need to exercise. Blah, blah, blah. Unless you decide you really want to do it. And that's kind of where we are right here. You know, what Kitty was talking about of how to start something is when you make your mind up and you make it happen. You have to make it happen. We've all gone through bouts where we said we were going to do certain things and we did it for a little while, and all of a sudden, you know, I like Frito. Okay? But you have to decide. You have to decide. For all 3 of these things, changing your thoughts and your focus can help you do a lot of things. It can help you quit smoking, help you lose weight, feel better, make better choices in every aspect. And see, part of it all goes back to this thing that I told you about a little bit earlier, this basic, first, fundamental. Is to allow yourself to develop a spirit of gratefulness and giving. Because you give to yourself. You're grateful for yourself. You give to yourself when you exercise or when you try to eat right. You give to yourself when you do those kind of things. So that's what it all comes back to. Now, we have grown up most of our lives thinking that situations or events create our world, and they don't. They don't. See, we create our world. Now, what I'm going to say here is just try to hear me out. There are a lot of things that happen. We live in a huge world. Huge world. This is a large state, by the way, if you didn't already know that. There are things that occur in other places outside of my direct world that some people spend their whole lives tore up and worried about stuff that, I'll give you a great example. There was a terrible tragedy that occurred in Paris today, if you didn't hear about it. Terrible. Terrible folks, terrible thing. And I'm compassionate about all of that over there, but it really didn't affect my world. Okay? Now, I'm not being ugly about that, but hear me out here. You see, I create my world. I don't like for any of that to happen. I hate for any of that. I'm so sorry for those that lost it. But see, I'm not going to let that change my world and disrupt it so that I live in fear. Okay? Those are bad things. I hope you're understanding me right here. I'm not saying that I'm not compassionate about that. I am. But what we've got to be concerned about is our world that we create for us. Okay? All around us, where we are. See, I don't have any influence on anybody right now other than you, and that's if you allow me to have influence with you right here in this room. This is it. Okay? Not influencing anybody else. And I'm not influencing you if you don't want me to, and that's okay too. But understand that. I want you to start practicing the art of controlling what you think about and how you think about things. Start by being grateful for what you have, your relationships, your money, and your health. No matter where you are, no matter what needs to be changed first, the first step, though, is to be grateful for what you actually have, okay? In all of them. If you don't have a lot of money, be grateful for what you got. If you don't have really good health, be grateful for the health that you have. If you don't have a lot of relationships, be grateful for the ones that you have. Be grateful for your relationship with God. Be grateful for the relationship with you. Okay? All right. In closing tonight, this is what I want to do. I want you to think back for a moment of what the story I told you, the Battle of Jericho. And I want us to try something. And I know it's 7:34. We'll be through here in just a couple seconds. 3 or 4 minutes. I want to take, and I'm going to time it, I want us to take 3 minutes of our time tonight. Don't say a word. Don't look at your watch. Don't try to think about your program you might miss or that you got being recorded. I want us to take 3 minutes tonight. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to dwell on everything that you have. Okay? So starting right now, total silence, dwell on it. Father, I want to thank you for tonight. I want to thank you for this time and this opportunity that we can come and hear you. I pray for each one of us, dear Lord, that tonight, as I said so much earlier on, no matter where we are, or what level we may feel that we're in, how close we are to you, dear Lord, that we get a little closer. That we actually start to formulate in our minds and our spirits the spirit of gratefulness and giving. That we take the time, dear Lord, to just look at everything that we have. And we take the time to be quiet, dear Lord, but then as we go about our business, dear Lord, I pray that everything our eyes fall upon, that we see you in it. We see you in every part. Thank you for all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, now, what I want you to do is starting tomorrow morning. You can see 3 minutes seems like a long time, doesn't it? It's only 3 minutes. It is. But when you're just sitting quiet, sometimes it just seems like a long time. I want you to start to develop to have just some quiet time. And if it's just 3 minutes, set your clock and take 3 minutes just to be quiet and listen. Tell God what you're thankful for. But it's okay just to listen. Allow him to share with you, to talk to you, give you words to say, and he'll do it. So for next week, what I'm going to do is I want somebody to give me some testimonies next week about this. I want you to start tomorrow morning of taking some quiet time to just be quiet and be thankful. To get in that realm with God, okay? Next week, I want somebody, and you can tell me before or after, or not after, but you can tell me before or you can contact me, but I want somebody to give me some testimony of what it did for you this coming week, okay? I have some cards up here with my name on them, my phone number and so forth. I'm on Facebook under joseph.grubbs or just Joseph Grubbs. I'm talking about email now, Joseph Grubbs. You can private message me, send me a text. My phone number's on there, anything, anytime, okay? I do go to bed about 9:30. All righty? Everybody good? Sunday morning and then next Wednesday night, okay? Thank you.